Welcome to Harp Talk. For anyone who's new, please do put your name in the comments. Please let me know where you're streaming from. This is our online harping community. It happens once a month. It's free. For anyone who's new to this format, if you'd like to purchase the accompanying handouts, the sheet music for this session and for any of the others, you can head over to my website, maevegilchristmusic.com /handouts, and all the music's there and you can just digitally download it. So that's how this works. Today is a really special workshop for me because all proceeds from today, whether it's the sheet music or you can also just choose to donate to Harp Talk on my website, all of those proceeds are going towards the recovery fund of my good friend Mike Barnett. Mike Barnett is maybe one of the best fiddle players of our generation. He's an unbelievable musician and he's just a wonderful, humorous, generous guy. He's maybe a year or two younger than I am, and last summer he suffered a hemorrhage and is completely, his life is turned upside down. He's learning how to, a cerebral hemorrhage, I should have said, but he's learning how to walk again. He's learning how to talk again and process and everything. And he will do it because he's Mike Barnett. And we're all super hopeful that he will hold a fiddle in his hands again. But it is a long, long process. And the extensive therapy that he has to undergo in order to achieve quality of life again is so expensive. There's a GoFundMe campaign. There's a link on the YouTube, on our Facebook page that you can check out and read a little bit more about his process. His wife, Annalisa, is incredible and is with him every step of the journey. But for this whole week, any proceeds from the sheet music are going to go directly towards his recovery campaign. I can't think of anyone who deserves our help more. So I hope you'll scope out some of the sheet music. I hope you'll check out his GoFundMe page. He's actually got an album that he recorded before all this went down, and that's going to come out on March 19th. I'm going to be on a track of it. Check out that as well. His music deserves to be heard and shared and celebrated, even while at the present moment he can't play the fiddle. So that's Mike Barnett. If you have any questions about him or the fund, please don't hesitate to email me. You can just email me at the email address on my website, or you can reach me through Facebook. But yes, I would love for you to know more about Mike because he is just wonderful. Okay, we've got Ruth, we've got Rachel. Hi, Rachel. Thanks for being here. Today's workshop is on slip jigs, and then we've got a regular jig as well. The sheet music that's out there is a little more advanced than usual, but as always, I'm going to try and take ideas and deconstruct it so it's relevant for a whole bunch of levels. Let me just start by playing. I'm going to play the first slip jig of the set. This is called the Achiever. What I'm wanting you to listen to for is roundness, groove, lightness, buoyancy. All of these things are so at the heart of keeping a jig moving and alive. And this idea of how do we not just play the tunes, but how do we bring them to life is something that I'd love to focus in on in today's session. This is also going to be an opportunity for you to ask questions about dexterity, ornamentation, all of those kind of things. But first, here's a slip jig. This is the Achiever. I'm going to start with this little muted pattern. when I'm in compound time like this, is every third eighth note. And you can just hear immediately, if I play the melody leaning on the downbeat, it sounds like this. I'll accent the downbeat with my left hand so it's doubly clear. If I lean on every third eighth note, I'm going to slow it down in a minute. But we're thinking 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You can just hear it. There's a mystery to it. There's kind of a slinkiness to it that wasn't there before. Again, downbeat. Upbeat. It makes such a difference. So how do we practice this so that over time it will become intuitive? We're going to start with just a couple of warm-ups. And for any of you who have the Jig Time technical handout, this stuff is all on there. But for anyone who doesn't, I'm just going to walk through it. If you've got your harp, we're going to be in the key for this. Well, we can stay where we are. If you're into modes, we're actually in A Dorian right now. The Dorian mode is a minor scale with a raised sixth. So to find it, we find our minor scale, our natural minor scale first. A minor, of course, is the relative minor of C major. So we find a regular A minor scale and then we raise the sixth. That's what gives this its color. There's so many ways to learn modes, apply modes, and kind of understand where they come from. For me, the most important use of a mode is the color options it gives me. So it's much more important actually for me to know the quality of a mode rather than from where it's derived. This might be helpful to you or not. I do have a handout out there, and I think on the Somerset page there is a workshop on modes. If you'd like a harp talk workshop on modes, you can let me know in the comments and I'll consider that. But the quality, I mean, is the color. So I know Dorian mode as A minor scale with a sharpened sixth. A minor scale with a sharpened sixth. And if you want to get familiar with it, move around the different keys and find different Dorian scales. But for now, we're in A with that raised F sharp. Let's just find 3 notes. We're going to put our thumb on A, our second finger on E, and our third finger on D. That's our default tone. Let's lighten up. It's like we're kind of lifting or hovering just a little bit more from the harp. And let's play it again. This is where you want to be. Let's try leaning into our thumb. If you're a more advanced player, you can do this with your left hand. Be sure to support back to the right hand. Now let's lean in on the second finger. That feels more awkward. Can you do it while still not inhibiting the flow of the notes? So even eighth notes. And then we'll do it with the third finger. I like to think of the third finger as swinging us back up to the thumb. So it becomes a circular pattern. I'm imagining my wrist doing this, even though I know it's not doing this. This is what I'm imagining. It's really relaxed. I'm barely playing my thumb or my second finger, and I'm bouncing off the third finger as we go back up to the A. We're going to extend this a little bit to make it a slip jig, 9/8 time. I should have started with this. For those of you who don't know what a slip jig is or aren't familiar with the Celtic repertoire, a slip jig is simply a 9/8 dance tune. Groups of 3/8 notes. So a regular jig is in 6/8 time. We have 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. A slip jig is 3 dotted quarters in a measure. So 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3. We're going to extend our pattern so that we're filling a measure of 9/8. And we're keeping 1, 2, 3 on the strings that they were on, and we're adding our fourth finger to the A below that. This is just always great for stretching out the hands. For anyone who's just finished the rhythm course that I did in January, you'll be sick of me emphasizing how important it is to stretch out that fourth finger. But particularly if you came to the harp later on, it's one of the most impactful things you can do for your playing is to get your right hand used to stretching out. Both hands, particularly the right hand. You want to use that fourth finger as much as possible. Make sure your fingers aren't up here, down here. It's like an invisible string is coming out of your finger and it's pulling you in and down. So in and down. We're then going to go up 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I'll demonstrate the notes here. For right now, we're finishing in a fist. Let's just do that a few times. I forgot to finish in a fist. And then same thing, we're going to try and find that third 8th note and gently lean on it. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Think about, instead of just pulling really hard on every third 8th note, think about coming away more on the other notes so that you're barely playing the other notes. I'm going to exaggerate it and slow it down. First of all, I'm imagining that you're going to be counting the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Once you get used to counting every third 8th note, then start to feel the quarter note and the relationship that begins to form between the accented upbeat and the downbeat. I'm going to click the downbeat here. If I was just playing the upbeat, that's what it would sound like. And again, I'm thinking of the upbeat as landing on the downbeat. This imagery, this idea of jumping and falling, of lifting and grounding yourself is so important to bringing a tune to life. So even in this simple exercise, we're going to try and do that. I'm going to speed it up again for any of the more advanced players. We're still imagining our wrists doing this. It's a circular, never-ending pattern now. 3 and a 4, 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a. Great. We're going to add in our left hand. There's a couple more people there. So hello to anybody who's just joining us now. Thank you for jumping through the technological hoops to be here. I won't keep repeating the story, but technical glitches. We're so glad that you're here. If you're new to Harp Talk, please let us know your name and where you're tuning in from, and you're all most welcome to our online harping community. Okay, so to start with, in the left hand, I'm actually going to bring my elbow down. When I'm playing in a more melodic, linear way, I always have the elbow supporting, because you can see what a difference it makes in joining the back of my palm to the forearm and supporting it that way. But right now, I'm going to actually rest on the strings, so I don't need the support of the elbow. And then my thumb, which is on A, is just going to gently bob back and forth, outlining the dotted quarters. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a. So my fingers are staying, resting on the strings. I'm adding dotted quarters to the pattern we already have. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a. If you feel tension at this point anywhere, try and work out why that is. If you're still feeling tension in your left hand, make sure that you're actually resting your left hand. Try different positions. Make sure that you're breathing in through your stomach and that your core is helping you. For me, that's the number one thing that helps take stress or tension away from other parts of the hand and the arm is when I can utilize my core. If you're doing this slower, that's just fine. I'm going to add something on. I'm working at fast forward. Please go back at your own leisure and check this video, pause it when you need to, and slow things down. But I'm going to move on right now. Instead of just having the one dotted quarter, I'm going to start splitting it up by an octave. So still playing dotted quarters, but going A, A. What we're doing here is actually putting a group of 2 dotted quarters against a group of 3 dotted quarters outlined in the right hand. So it's creating this slightly more challenging rhythmic juxtaposition. All the while, we're still trying to concentrate on making the right hand buoyant by leaning into every 3rd, 8th note. So there's a lot to go to kind of focus on and get going in this pattern. I'm going to start one layer at a time. Right hand first. I'm counting my dotted quarters. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. I start playing them. I start splitting up the left hand. My right hand, there's a slight swing starting to happen, and this just happens when I get in the groove of this kind of every 3rd, 8th note, the lean into it, and I love it. I love the swing that's created in these jigs. And sometimes I start to stress it a little bit more so it's even more swung. Or perhaps I straighten it out a little bit, but I'm in control of it and notice that it's there. Okay. We're going to go to the actual tune itself now and use parts of it to do the same work. I think the hardest thing about creating the buoyancy in jigs or slip jigs is getting used to this feel of gently accenting every 3rd, 8th note. And actually, I'm using the word accent, but I think of it more as a surge into the 3rd, 8th note. So there's no hard angles as we kind of visualize what we want this tune to sound like. We're going to start by just taking the very first measure. And this might be enough for you, just the notes by themselves. If you want to not look at the music, we've got 2 A's, G, E, A, G, E. 1, 2, 3. So I'm first of all working out where are my upbeats. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then I start to speed up. when you speed it up, I mean, it's that thing that's a challenge, is that as you're getting to a certain level of speed playing, it can feel so laborious. But then once you get over that hump, it actually becomes a little easier, which I'm told is similar to skiing. But I have not experienced that in my skiing yet. But for sure, it might sound kind of frustrating to hear if you're working really hard at gathering the tools to be able to play faster, but you're going to reach a place where actually it becomes a little bit easier because you're using less energy. And this is the biggest secret to any type of speed playing. The less energy we can use, the more that we can sustain our energy and stamina and play for longer periods of time. We can kind of not be using so much mental energy on making the notes happen, and we can use that mental energy to make interesting musical decisions, ornamentation choices, melodic variations. There's so many things that we want to be able to do at speed in the same way we do when we play slower airs, where there's much more space for those kind of musical nuances. But we can do them at speed, but we have to take away some of the effort in other areas first. And right now we're concentrating on taking away the physical effort. So if you're just at this place, let's just repeat these notes. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You can work at making that very circular. If you're a little more advanced, I'm going to give you some ornamentation. And throughout this whole arrangement, there's a lot of ornamentation written. And the idea is that it completely unaffects the way that the melody is played. The melody has the same rhythm, it's interpreted in the same way, there's simply ornamentation around it. So your ornamentation should not affect how heavy or awkward, I guess, or smooth. Sometimes ornamentation actually does help to smooth it out. But the melody should flow as it always did. The ornamentation we're going to put in is a little roll onto G and E. I'll slow that down even more. We have the first two A's by themselves. Now I'm playing them loud so that you can pick them up, but that B and A, they should be ghost notes. They're barely there. They're just rolling onto the target melody note of G to E. And this is such a balance thing. The more you play and the more familiar you get with ornamentation, and it is a muscle you just need to use and use and use, you'll start to feel that the melody is in place the way it should be. It's like you feel yourself landing on it and you play a slightly different way. But the way to practice ornamentation is to make sure that the flow of the melody is unimpeded and that the ornamentation is incredibly light. So you hear a like 90% difference in the volume of the ornaments versus the melody notes. Here's how not to play the ornamentation. Do you hear the difference there? Ghost notes. You can barely hear. It's like something happened, you're not sure what. Too heavy ornamentation. This just takes a lot of focus, a lot of repetition, like all of this stuff, especially if it's something that you're not used to doing. It's just, like I said, a muscle that we need to use. That's the first part, and then we're going to add one more cut or grace note in the last dotted quarter. I'm just adding a little B grace note to my A melody note. This is it loud. This is it where it should be. You can barely hear it, but it sets up the melody in a very special way. And this is the beauty of ornamentation. You barely know it's there when it's happening correctly, but it just, it elevates the melody, and it can really create a personal stamp on a melody as well. So this is our first measure of the achiever, and we're going to loop it, whether it's just you playing the melody notes or whether it's with the ornamentation as well. If you'd like me to slow this down, please let me know in the comments. In fact, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to write them in the comments. By taking very small passages of either of these jigs and looping them, you're going to be able to get an idea of the feel and groove much quicker than if you're waiting until you've got all the notes under your fingers. This is kind of a general rule. Creating loops doesn't just help you kind of master the technical challenges of a melody or of a piece of music, but it helps you get a feeling of what it will feel like when you reach the end goal. If you're ever at the end goal. I know I'm not. So create little loops. Right now we're using the first measure. For anyone who's got that already, I'm going to add a challenging left hand. With the left hand, we're going to emphasize the every third eighth note as well. If it's too much for you to do hands together or the right hand, this is actually something you can do just again gently resting your left hand on the harp and playing single A's. Make sure that you're keeping the hand on the harp. If you're taking it off, you're actually not resting. So we should just go back to our other kind of more linear playing position. So make sure you're resting. You're counting 1, 2, 3. Very likely your foot is tapping on the downbeat. So you're feeling this relationship between the upbeat in your thumb and the downbeat. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. If you're doing that, that's just fine. If you want to try and put it hands together, be my guest. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm creating a loop out of this upbeat left hand and the first measure of the achiever. Here we go. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a. See how lightly you can play it. And play with dynamics, which is another lovely thing to do when you're looping these small sections. As you grow it, make sure that everything doesn't become heavy, but actually you're keeping the same kind of shape to your notes, leaning on that third, eighth note, but your general default tone is kind of rising or increasing or decreasing. Okay, any questions so far? You're all being very polite there. Keith, you were not polite at all at the beginning with Jeanette, so please chat away. Heckling is encouraged. We don't have any questions yet. Okay, I'll carry on. Linear lines, creating more kind of sculpted lines that can make your right hand feel as if it's flying. That sounds kind of hyperbolic, but it's true. When I'm going and when this kind of line that I'm about to demonstrate happens, it feels like you lift off. So we're again just isolating a measure. We're taking measure 21. If you don't have the music and aren't interested in the music, that's no problem. This is just a passage from the B section. In this tune, the A section is kind of grounding and anchored. The B section takes off. I'm just going to play an A section into the B section so that you can get a sense of that shape. Oh, that's just the loop, the whole tune. Here we go. It feels like you're flying, and you want to feel that, and you want your listener to feel that as well. So we're going to take just again a very short snippet of this so that we can get it to the point where it feels easy. We're trying to find the ease in this tricky tune. We've got 4, 3, 2, 1 on C, D, E, and G. We go up C, D, E, G, then put 2 and 1 under onto A and B. Let's actually block that for anyone who wants to do it with me. So 4, 3, 2, 1 on C, D, E, and G, 2 and 1 on A and B. We'll do that a couple of times, just getting the hand used to these shapes. Make sure that your fingers are well separated from your thumb. There's that real space that's going to allow you to go under and over at speed. And it's easier to do it without that space when we're playing slow like we're doing now. But again, you're going to hit a wall as you speed it up. So practice the space now. We go up those notes individually. Second finger goes up. I slide the thumb from B to A. And then I play A, G, and E. And that's going to be our loop. What we're trying to do is make the loop sound like this. So we're not leaning in at the beginning or at the end, but we're leaning right in the middle, creating this kind of rainbow shape of phrase. I'll exaggerate it now. Again. You're really trying to make your fingering and the shift of the hand not affect the phrase. So the phrase is what you want it musically, intellectually. It's not what your hands are creating. If you've got the notes, go ahead and shut your eyes and make sure that you're creating the phrase that you want. I can hear the laughter through the screen right now. It's okay if you can't do that right now. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking a phrase from a dance tune and I'm working with it abstractly to get it how I want musically. And then we'll put it back in the grid of a faster, consistent pulse. If this is my metronome. Does that make sense, the way I'm shaping that? If you feel any kinks as you're moving up and down in the register with your hands, work them out, slow it down, work out where the kink's happening. Is it because there's not enough space for your fingers to go under smoothly? If you're having to move your wrist, that means there's not enough space. To create the space, instead of going up, keep your thumb where it is, shift down. If your thumb is really low, you can move it up, but often I find it's that the whole hand needs to just come down a little bit. Once you can get it abstractly, put on the metronome and make sure that it's flowing. I can't tell you how effective this looping method is. When I'm working on new textures, and I am constantly, actually, just today I was working on this new vamp that I've kind of been working on since Christmas. Actually, Annie, I think it was when I was staying at your house quarantining in December. Annie here, who's watching, very kindly let me quarantine in her spare house when I went home to visit my parents in December. So I stayed there for 2 weeks and I was working on this new piece I was writing for a group of musicians in Scotland. And there was this new vamp that I simply couldn't play at the time. And it's really taken till recently that I can play it without really thinking about it. Is this kind of 3/4 thing. The left hand is doing dotted quarters. I won't go down on a tangent for too long, I promise. But we're in 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. This is what the left hand is doing. The right hand's going 1, 2. Was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Anyway, I can barely explain it, but now I can play it. Down the octave. And it's taken me so long to get that to the point that I can just play it. Same with kind of a strumming pattern I've been working on. And what I do is I just make it part of my regular practice. I don't expect to be able to play it in an effortless way for months or at least weeks. I just put on the metronome. I work at whatever speed I can work with it for 5 minutes a day, and it's amazing. By the end of a couple of months, it happens, and it's in your hands, and it's like you can take that pattern, that vamp, that thing on the harp, and put it into your scrapbook of textures or things that you can do on the harp and pull it out in the future. So this is what we're doing with the Achiever as well. I see some comments, so let me just check in. Right hand P. Oh, Annie's asking about PDLT. The Près de la Table, which is written a couple of places, I think, on this arrangement, is usually just when I'm low on the harp. I'm actually, let me look at the music and I can tell you where that's happening. I'm using my computer screen to see the music. Where do you see that PDLT, Annie? I don't know if I did write that in. No, I don't think that is in this music, unless I'm missing something. PDLT, the brook. I'm not sure I follow, Annie. But if I'm missing it, if it's in a measure there, let me know. For those of you who don't know what Annie's referring to, PDLT is when you play the strings very low against the soundboard and you can hear the difference. Here. Oh, I see. Annie says it's just from watching my hands. She's wondering if I am using it. Yes, at times I do, Annie, especially when I'm playing low. I don't know if this is low enough. In general, I'm keeping my Près de la Table stuff to below middle C because it gets really muddy. And whenever the strings start to get muddy, bringing it down to the base of the strings just gives me more clarity. So maybe I was doing it and not thinking about it, but I can't think of specific areas in this piece that I would do that. At the beginning, I am doing this muted texture, which I'll go over in a second. In fact, why not do that right now? At the beginning of the whole piece, I'm gently muting the bottom of my strings. Now, it's really easy to over mute, and you can hear if I push too hard, it actually changes the intonation of the string. We don't want that. We just want to be touching it lightly enough that we can still get a round, complete tone. But the pitch is exactly the same. So if you're muting it too much, or if it doesn't sound round or clear, try backing off the strings a little bit. Play around with placement. Your hand is different from mine, so you'll probably, you might have to move it in different ways. But it gives us this lovely kind of marimba-like sound. Love that texture, and I love the kind of emergence of the melody from that. Here we go. It's like a really lovely kind of swoosh into the music. But back to the arc. Finding a way to shape that and coming away at the end of the arc. So this is measure 21. It happens again a bunch of places. Again, if our default tone is lower, it takes less effort to create those kind of arcs. If our default tone is heavy, it means we have to lean in even heavier when we play those shapes. And that just gets really twangy. Okay, I'm going to move on to a different part of this, unless there's any other questions. Okay, no, I don't think so. we're going to go to measure 29 when the ostinato starts in the left hand. So something that I've really enjoyed working with on this piece is this kind of dotted quarter left hand. We're outlining 4 dotted quarters, whereas the right hand melody is outlining 3, and it gives us this lovely kind of juxtaposition. Have a listen. 1, 2, 3. You can sit there for as long as you want. Or you can add a third on top, and it just again makes it a little denser. The texture becomes a little thicker. If you're a more elementary or intermediate player watching this, there's a lot of things that you can do to make this more playable for yourself. Take away some of the ornamentation and refinger so you can still get that flow in the melody. Take away some of those left hand offbeats, but don't take away all of them. The way that this arrangement built is to try and boost it or inject it with as much buoyancy as possible. And there's still ways for you to do that. So kind of analyze what are the important parts here. Often these upbeats are just kind of creating movement into a new section. But try and deconstruct the important bass line notes, the places where we really need that buoyancy from the upbeats. And then take away the other things. We don't need to go up the octave like it does towards the end of the Achiever. There's lots of little things we can break down, and actually getting in the habit of deconstructing and making a piece work for you is a really wonderful way to build your repertoire, because you're learning stuff that you want to learn, and you're breaking bad habits, and you're learning you're gaining technical facility that's going to help you down the road. So I would just encourage you to work in very small loops and hack away some of the stuff that isn't necessary. I'm going to move on to the to just play you the Sweet Catriona Rose, which is a new tune that I just wrote for a great friend of mine who had a little baby called Catriona Rose. It's so new, I actually need to pull up the music. Are there any questions on the Achiever before I move on? The Achiever, slip jigs, how to use the right hand in slip jigs, how to bring out the left hand. Any questions at all? I'm going to pull up Sweet Catriona Rose. I do need to tune that top E. We might have a burst E before the end of this. Linda is asking, fingering in the 12/8 measure. The 12/8 measure. Is the 12/8 measure... I think it's that one, Linda. Is that the one that you mean? If it's this one, I'm not sure what version, if you're looking at the old one it is, but I think this is 1, 2, 3, 4. And you're asking, yes, you're asking for the 12/8 measure. So the way I'd finger this is 4, 3, 2, 1. And I'm actually just lifting my thumb up to E. And it's hard to know why I'm intuitively doing that when I could finger it, of course, 3, 2, 1, 2, 1, and have a never-ending flow. But actually, if I think about where my 3rd 8th note is, it's the B. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then it's the A. So these top D and E aren't super important. I'm playing my thumb really lightly and even lighter when I jump up to play the E above it. 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2. I'm doing the grace note BA onto the next G melody note. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll do that again. 4, 3, 2, 1, 1. Really lift, light, lift. 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. But of course I don't play the grace notes that heavily. I often double up the left hand, but I miss out that top E, so I'm just going 4, 3, 2, 1, 2. Okay, great. And we have a question from Rachel. Is the last A in the left hand in measure 15 supposed to be tied? I think it is. I just clicked away the music, but let me pull it up here. Rachel, sorry for the low tech, everyone. Let's see here. In measure 15, 16, it is indeed. Great catch. So Rachel just pointed out in measure 15, the last A is supposed to be tied. In a lot of those places, Rachel and everybody, if you took away an A or added an extra upbeat in, it wouldn't be the end of the world at all. The idea is that you're implying this stream of eighth notes, upbeats, even though you're not actually playing them all. So you can take away or add them as you like. Here's Sweet Catriona Rose. We've got a nice shift from A mixolydian in the A section, that's a major scale with a flat 7, to the key of G in the B section. One more time. Is still a new one for me, but I think it will feel very good to play. It feels joyous. It was supposed to be joyous. It's for a new little girl, and you can hear the change from the end of the achiever. A lovely shift as you're putting tunes together, and a lot of these tunes were made to be put into sets. And think about tonality, color shift. Are you looking to kind of bubble over? Are you looking to kind of go inward? And the keys, the relationship between the keys that you choose can really have a powerful impact on the feeling that happens when you move from tune to tune. I'm trying to think of any last tips for this second one, but it's a lot of the same stuff that we've been talking about in the Achiever. The second one, of course, is just a regular jig, and that change as well, that shift between this feeling of 3 dotted quarters into the 2 helps us kind of feel like we're zooming forward a little bit. I would say analyze, just take that very first line. Think of that as one phrase. It's a long phrase. It's 4 measures. 1, 2, 3, 1. That's 4 measures, and it's really one phrase. And you want to play it and practice it and loop it so it sounds like one phrase being that rainbow-shaped phrase. So not too heavy at the beginning, not too heavy at the end, but creating this lovely lean in through the whole thing. We're over by 15 minutes, but we had a late start. But does anyone have any questions so far? Any shiftings of levers? Oh, I know something I want to say. In the B section of this, when we go to that C chord, that feels like such a release. And I'm thinking about creating lift in that moment. So we're kind of driving through. That's such a great moment. And I'm thinking of that as a jump in the air. I land and I jump again. I land, jump, jump, lift, lift, jump, jump. You get this idea, but like I'm coming out of my seat. I'm embodying the feeling that I want the melody to create. And I think that's so important with dance tunes. Otherwise, it just becomes a bunch of eighth notes. But it's really our job as interpreters to shape these eighth notes in a way that makes them dance too. Let's see. Thank you, Ruth. Thank you for tuning in. Sorry, everybody, again for any technical difficulties. From now on, and our next one is March 27th, I'm just going to direct people to the YouTube channel of Harp Talk so that you just go to the live, the YouTube live button, and I'll be there so that we don't have to worry about this kerfuffle of the link not working. If you have anything that you would like to work on in the future, shoot me an email. If you're not on my mailing list, do sign up via the website. These happen once a month. And go back to the website and have a browse on that sheet music. And if there's anything that you'd find useful, all proceeds this week are going to Mike Barnett's recovery fund. There's also a link to that fund on the Harp Talk Facebook page, and you can donate directly if you're so inclined. Thank you for being here. It's always wonderful to see you. I don't think we've got any more questions, so I will love you and leave you. Thanks for being here. See you next time.